On Sunday the 18th of June 2023, 5 men began an extraordinary journey to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean to see the wreckage for themselves.
It's got one button, and that's it.
But their sub went missing, prompting a massive international effort to find them, with warnings oxygen supplies would be dwindling.
The really nightmarish scenario is that they are alive, at the surface, bobbing away, running out of air, and unable to get out.
It's exceptionally difficult. It's basically a needle in a haystack.
Well, I'm nervous. I'm sick to my stomach with nerves. I'm just hoping for good news.
The dive that was meant to take around 8 hours turned into days.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
What do we know about what happened to the Titan? On Saturday the 17th of June 2023, British explorer Hamish Harding posted an update on Facebook revealing his journey to explore the wreck of the Titanic.
I'm proud to finally announce that I've joined OceanGate Expeditions for their RMS Titanic mission as a mission specialist on the sub going down to the Titanic. Due to the worst winter in Newfoundland in 40 years, this mission is likely to be the first and only manned mission to the Titanic in 2023. A weather window has now opened up and we're going to attempt a dive tomorrow.
Harding was travelling with OceanGate Expeditions, a private company that takes paying customers down to see the wreck. The 8-day trip started on Friday the 16th of June, when the research ship, the Polar Prince, left the Canadian port of St John's to head out to sea. The Polar Prince is a large ship that can be used to transport submersibles to the area above the Titanic wreck site. The Titanic lies approximately 3,800 metres below sea level, where natural light cannot reach, just complete darkness. "2022 marked 110 years since the sinking of the Titanic. The wreck site sits beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Newfoundland on Canada's east coast. Explorers found the wreckage in 1985, and during 11 dives in July 1986, footage was shot by cameras on a human-occupied submersible. It was the first time people had set eyes on the supposedly unsinkable ship since 1912. Titan is a 6.7 metre long submersible capable of carrying 5 people. It costs $250,000 to travel to the Titanic site on board Titan. The chief executive of OceanGate Expeditions spoke to the BBC's US partner, CBS News.
Who are the typical clientele for these missions?
We have clients that are Titanic enthusiasts, which we refer to as Titaniacs. We have people who have mortgaged their home to come and do the trip. And we have people who don't think twice about a trip of this cost. We had one gentleman who had won the lottery.
The submersible left an impression on the CBS journalist, which he highlighted in his report.
And yet I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
I like to tell people this is not your grandfather's submarine. It's got one button, and that's it.
Stockton Rush, the company's CEO, is one of the 5 men on board the Titan, which lost contact with the surface vessel an hour and 45 minutes after it began a dive to see the wreck on Sunday the 18th of June 2023. Mr. Rush spoke to BBC News on the travel show last year.
Yeah, so we run the sub with this game controller. It's made by Logitech, but it's basically a Sony PlayStation style controller. If you want to go forward, you press forward. If you want to go back, you press back. You want to turn to the left? It's like that. You want to turn to the right? You turn to the right.
In this interview, the company stresses that each person involved with an expedition to see the wreckage has a dedicated scientific role, keen to play down associations with tourism to the historic gravesite.
This is not a tourist operation. We have a number of nautical archaeologists and deep sea marine biologists, as well as our own crew, that will go. There are 5 individuals can go on each dive. 3 of those are what we call mission specialists. So those are the folks who help finance the mission, but they are also active participants. So why we're not a fan of the tourist term is because these are crew members.
The youngest person on board the Titan is Suleiman Daoud, a 19-year-old student from Surbiton in southwest London. He's a student at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. His father, British businessman Shahzada Daoud, is also on board. He is vice chairman of Pakistani conglomerate Engro Corporation. Mr. Daoud is from one of Pakistan's richest families.
We've spoken about his son and his daughter as well, and his dog and his cat and his wife and other members of the family. He did tell me that he was going along as well, so we knew he was with his dad on this trip. I can't imagine what the family is going through.
On a personal side, I know Shahzada to be deeply involved with lots of initiatives that help improve people's lives. Both he and his family are tremendous philanthropists doing good for societies and humanity all over the world.
Hamish Harding made money in banking software in the 1990s and set up his Dubai-based private jet business, Action Aviation, in 2004. He's a seasoned explorer who holds 3 Guinness World Records, including the longest time spent at full ocean depth during a dive to the deepest part of the Mariana Trench.
You're a friend of Hamish. I appreciate this is a very difficult time for you and his friends and family at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, all our thoughts have to be with it, in particular his family, his wife and two sons, and those who are closer to him. You know, it must be dreadful just not knowing. It's one of these things that maybe as explorers we don't take into account enough. We accept the risks, we go into it knowing the risks, we've calculated everything, but our friends and family don't, and they don't often understand what's going on. So that's where our thoughts have to be.
Also on board is Paul-Henri Najolet, or PH, a former French Navy diver nicknamed Mr. Titanic. He has reportedly spent more time at the wreck than any other explorer and was part of the first expedition to visit it in 1987, just 2 years after it was found.
So you have lots of experience with submarine. He knows how to react if there is a problem. And so I'm very confident about it, that he can manage good the situation. And he's really passionate about the Titanic since they found it more than 30 years ago. And I know now he's at the place he would like to be. Just I really hope they will find them all safe.
The Titan has life support for approximately 96 hours for those on board. It means the mission to find the sub is in a race against time over an area that's twice the size of the state of Connecticut, more than 25,000 square kilometres. The search has taken place above the water using aircraft and on the water using ships. Both US and Canadian agencies are involved in the rescue operation. It's here in Boston where the search operation is based. This story has attracted a huge amount of attention, reflected in the level of media interest. The US Coast Guard has been holding regular press conferences to keep us updated. And the operation itself has been Herculean, drawing on international resources, including from the UK.
Our crews are working around the clock to ensure that we are doing everything possible to locate the Titan and the 5 crew members. Yesterday, we stood up a unified command consisting of expertise from the United States Coast Guard, the United States Navy, Canadian Armed Forces and Coast Guard, and the Titan's parent company, OceanGate Expedition. To date, those search efforts have not yielded any results.
The Navy has been in touch with the Coast Guard and is working to provide personnel, such as subject matter experts, and assets as quickly as possible.
Locating the sub is hard, especially from the air because it's white in colour. Changeable weather and poor visibility will also pose a challenge to the teams.
Well, I'm nervous. I'm sick to my stomach with nerves. I'm terrified. I'm anxious. I'm not sleeping at the moment. I'm just hoping for good news. Every single second, every single minute feels like hours. And we're losing time and we're losing opportunity to find them alive.
The US Coast Guard has extended the search into deeper waters to look for the craft. Radio and GPS signals can't travel through water, so the only other way to detect the sub is through sonar and sonar buoys, often used in hunting for enemy submarines. They work by detecting movements and sounds in the water or by bouncing a sonar ping off the surface of the vessel and listening for the returning echo.
So it's not only is it a small 6.7 meter vessel in very, very deep water in a large ocean, but it's also near to the wreckage of the Titanic. And if you think the Titanic was actually over 290 meters long, and that wreckage is all over the place, and there'll be some of that wreckage that's about the same size. So it's exceptionally difficult. It's basically a needle in a haystack.
On day 3, a Canadian aircraft detected underwater noises. The data is the first possible breakthrough, with authorities relocating their search.
As mentioned in the brief, we had a P-3 aircraft, Aurora aircraft flying yesterday that had sonar buoys. The sonar buoys detected noise in the water. We don't know the source of that noise, but we've shared that information with Navy experts to classify it. In the meantime, what we've done is reprioritize the 2 remote operated vehicles that we have searching the surface of the water in the area of those noises to see if we can locate the source of those noises and locate the people in the submersible.
Speaking to the families, how much hope can you give them after hearing those noises?
Listen, I think you need to be careful. We need to have hope, right? But I can't tell you what the noises are. But what I can tell you is, and I think this is the most important point, we're searching where the noises are, and that's all we can do at this point.
Reports suggested that the banging is at regular intervals, so may be produced by a human source. Some of those on board are highly experienced. Paul-Henri Najolet has travelled to the wreck site before. It has been surmised that he would know the protocol to alert search teams by banging for 3 minutes every half an hour.
The equipment that's been mobilized for this is the finest in the world, the most capable in the world. We have to hold out hope. I think, as you're aware, there's still life support available on the submersible, and we'll continue to hold out hope until the very end.
Alistair Grieg, a UCL marine engineering professor, says the rescue operation is hugely complex and challenging.
If it's very deep, it's going to be very difficult to rescue it. None of the conventional submarine rescue methods, which are designed mainly for naval submarines, would be able to operate down at the depth of the Titanic. Even if it could get down there, the hatches would not mate onto the submersible.
On Thursday, last-ditch efforts are deployed amidst fears oxygen levels are critical. A French vessel with a submersible capable of reaching the seabed and transmitting images to the surface arrives in the search area. The Victor 6000 also has 2 mechanical arms capable of extremely delicate manoeuvres such as cutting or removing debris. The resources allocated to search for the Titan drew criticism online, with the efforts to find rich explorers compared to resources allotted to rescue migrants crossing large bodies of water on small boats. In the weeks prior to the Titan submersible going missing, Greece declared a period of national mourning after a boat carrying migrants sank off the coast of Pylos. At least 78 people died, with hundreds more missing.
Does the Secretary General have any thoughts on the different responses to these tragedies?
Well, all lives are precious. I think all efforts must be made to save the lives of the people on this submersible. But by the same token, and I did say something similar on this yesterday, all of those who are risking their lives at sea must be protected.
As the search for the missing vessel intensifies, focus turns to OceanGate and the safety of the trip. CBS correspondent David Pogue had travelled in the Titan.
Yeah, you are bolted in from the outside. There are 18 bolts in a circle around the hatch. Before we went, we had never seen the sub. We didn't know anything about it. There's very little information on the website, just that it's a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind carbon fiber submersible. I didn't know at that point that you drive the thing with an Xbox game controller. I didn't know that the ballast was, used construction pipes. You get there and then you start seeing this stuff, and now your mood crashes and you get a little worried. Like, is this the level of polish and sophistication we're talking about? The night before, I was so panicked, but once I was in the sub with Stockton and the scientists and the crew is outside doing what they had rehearsed over and over, I felt okay. I felt excited. I felt like they wouldn't do this if it was really dangerous. The really nightmarish scenario is that they are alive at the surface, bobbing away, running out of air, and unable to get out.
As time marches on and news reports give hour-by-hour accounts of the dwindling oxygen supplies potentially on board the Titan, experts begin to question the expedition.
When we're diving in the Mirs, the Russian subs, or the Nautil, the French submersible, or just like the American Alvin, there is a transponder system that's set up. It's a net that we navigate in so that we know where we are at all times on the wreck of Titanic. We're in constant communication with the vessel up top, and it just makes it for a much safer environment. I mean, when you're out in the North Atlantic, it is, we only have a 3-month weather window, which pretty much goes from, the end of June to September, where the seas are calm enough to actually be out there and able to dive, which right now it's really early in the season. So I'm not sure, why OceanGate went out this soon. But, deploying subs in the water and spending all day, on the wreck and coming back, you're 6,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. You're 12,850 feet down. And so every precaution has to be taken at all times.
We're live from London. You're watching BBC News. If you've just joined us, a major development on that search for the submersible that we've just heard from the US Coast Guard saying that a debris field has been discovered within the search area by one of those rovers that they have on the site near the Titanic site.
An ROV, or remote operated vehicle, from the vessel Horizon Arctic discovered the tail cone of the Titan submersible approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the family.